This is another one of those pretty much annual jaunts into Sherwood Forest today, and the species that I'm looking for is a flea. So it's called, but in reality it's nothing like the traditional flea which you might imagine. Looking very picturesque and very quiet today here. This is the heather path, which is a broad sort of heather lined path which dissects this particular part of the Sherwood Forest Country Park. Some good inverts have turned up here over the years, and one in particular is the Snow Flea, or shall I say was the Snow Flea, because it's only been found the once, and that was when Dillis and I trundled along here back in 2014 with the intention of finding the Snow Flea. We found it within 30 minutes, and then I've never seen it since, and that's 10 years ago, almost to the very day. It's actually very pleasant stood here, despite a rather annoying northerly breeze, which is quite cool. Here it's lovely, there's a bit of warmth in that mid-January sunshine. But my quarry today, the Snow Flea, as I've mentioned, has no relationship at all to the domestic flea you might find on your cat or your dog or your guinea pig. Rather, it belongs to the order of Mecoptera, which includes more familiar species such as scorpion flies. We have 3 species of scorpion flies in the UK, and they're all Panorpa. One of the commonest is Panorpa communis. But they're very familiar insects found on low vegetation, especially in woodland areas or anywhere where the low vegetation is lush and green. Boreas hyemalis, though, the snow flea, is found more in this kind of habitat, in amongst moss and leaf litter. Supposedly, our only record came from a mating pair found under a small piece of bark just further up here. It was one of those amazing flukes of a find, really, and despite the intention of looking and finding Snow Flea, that was quite a remarkable and surprising discovery. Our luck was certainly in that day, but it never has been since. It's obviously a widespread insect found in such habitat as this, and probably quite widespread in Nottinghamshire, but it is elusive. This is no big sort of heavy in-depth look for the Snow Flea today. It will be just completely by chance, as in the original recording of the species here at Sherwood Forest, and indeed in Nottinghamshire. It's Nottinghamshire's only record, just the one. But one of the best ways that you can look for Snow Flea, given there's a bit of warmth in that sunshine, is just to look along carpets of moss. Hopefully you may well see a bit of movement, and if it's not a springtail, chances are it could be Snow Flea. But what I traditionally do is sift the leaf litter, especially where it's against moss or on top of moss or up against the heather, the clumps of heather that can be found along here. But to say, the only record we did have was of a mating pair under a small piece of wood. So I like to turn over any small pieces of wood, and the advantage of that is that pieces of wood tend to conduct the warmth of the sun, and so invertebrates are often active under pieces of wood because the temperature's just a little bit higher. Well, I had no joy, but the species is here. There's no doubt about that, because recorded it here. But it is certainly a very difficult species to find. Tried different methods over the years, sifting through leaf litter over a tray, swept the area, which often looks quite ridiculous. Someone sees you with a net in the middle of January, but no method has brought additional success, and I think certainly the best way is to visual search underneath small logs or pieces of bark that's fallen off the trees, or collect leaf litter and sort it into a tray and sift through it. One of those methods will one day bring the snow flea back to prominence. It made the newspapers, being a new species for Nottinghamshire at the time. So it's continued looking. I have been looking for a good half an hour or so with no joy, but I've only got limited time today, and so it's a steady walk back home. Maybe I'll try again next year.